Okay. Okay, so we were talking about control statements. Okay, so what do you mean by control statements? That means statements which control the flow of execution of a program, known as control statements. Sometimes we want to change the flow of execution of a program, your program. Okay, so in this case, we need to use these control statements. If we don't use control statements, the general flow of execution is line by line. Okay, so that is called sequential execution, I told. Okay, so whenever we want to change this flow of execution, then we use these statements known as control statements. We can classify control statements in two types. One is conditional statements and the second one is iterative statements. Okay, so examples for conditional statements, switch statement, go to statements, and examples for iterative while, for, do while statements. Okay. So the various conditional statements, if we look into, okay, so we have if statement, switch statement, go to statement, continue statement, and also we have break statement. So all these statements are conditional statements. Change the flow of execution by using these statements. Okay, so these 5 statements are conditional statements. Now, so we'll discuss with the first conditional statement, that is if statement, which is most important. Okay, so in almost all the programs we use this if statement. Okay, so generally if statement we use whenever we want to test some condition. Okay, so whenever we want to test some condition, then take decision. Okay, so that means which line of program has executed. Okay, where we need to jump inside the program. Okay, so in such case we use this if statement, and if statement can be implemented in different forms in C programming. Okay, so first one is simple if statement, then second form is if else statement, then the third form is nested if else statement, and the fourth form of if is else if tag. Okay, so in these 4 forms, depending on the complexity of problem, we use one of these if statements. Okay, so we'll discuss one by one. We'll start with a simple if statement. Okay, so simple if statement, the general form or the simple if statement, if you see, it begins with the keyword if, and this if should be written in a lower case, and within parentheses write the condition to be tested. Test condition we write inside the parenthesis, and please remember this one is important here. Okay, so then begin this if statement with open brace. Okay, so then we write the statement block within this open brace and closing brace. Okay, that means how this statement is executed. Okay, so first the test condition is tested. Okay, if this is true, then this statement block is executed. After executing statement block, and then the control goes to the next statement, which is statement X. If the test condition is false, okay, so then this statement block is skipped. It won't execute this statement block directly. It comes to this statement X. Okay, so what happening here? You are skipping some part of the program based on the condition, and jumping to some other part of the program. Okay, so this is possible with a simple if statement. Okay, so simple if we use whenever we want true and we want to take some action. In such case we use this a simple if statement. Okay, so example, I told a simple program example we have taken. I declared a variable called as a num here. Okay, so then I ask the user to enter a number less than 100. I'm clearly asking the user to enter a number less than 100, and whatever he enters, that I'm catching in a variable called as a num. I'm catching in a variable called as a num using this scanf function. So through keyboard, voice is talking. Voice control, okay. Yeah, I'll speak a bit slower. Now, keyboard, if we want to read data, we know that we have to use this scanf function. So I'm using the same scanf function with the TSD format specifier because I'm asking the user to enter an integer number. Okay, so that I'm called as a num. Okay, so assume that user has entered a number called as a 50. Okay, so that 50 is a num I'm storing. Okay, so then I'm checking the condition whether user has entered a less than 100 or not. Okay, so I want to test now. How can I test? Now using this if statement, I can test. Okay, so here this is how we write the test condition. If and within the parenthesis, now you write the condition. If num less than 100, if num less than 100, okay, checks whether the variable num. Are you getting any other noise here? Some noise I'm getting here. Yes, please. Am I not audible clearly? So hope it is clear. Okay, right. Okay, so I'll talk a bit slower so that you'll get my voice clearly. Okay, right. Now, no, there is no machine running beside me, but even I am also getting that sound. See, I switch off my fan. Okay, see, I'm muting myself. So I mute. Even if I mute, I'm getting that voice. Now, is it clear now? Is it clear now? No, no. About audio quality. Audio, is it clear now? Okay. Now it is okay. Okay then. Thank you. Right. So what we are doing in this programming, simple if we are demonstrating simple if how it can be used in a program. Okay. So we read a number. We asked the user to enter a number less than 100. Yeah, is it clear now? Done. Screen okay na? Right. Okay, done. Thank you. Right. So now through keyboard we put a number into a variable called as num. Okay. So now we want to test. We want to test whether really the user has entered a number less than 100 or not. Okay. Please 1 second. Okay. So whether user has entered a number less than 100 or not, that we want to test in the program. So then we write simple if statement in this form. If num less than 100, it checks. Okay. So whether num less than 100. Okay. Assume that user has entered the number 50. Now it checks like this: 50 less than 100, true. Okay. So if this condition is true, then the next statement immediately following that if is executed. Okay, so then this printf is executed. Then on the screen you can see congratulations, well done. Whatever statement following this if belongs to this if statement. So then this printf will be executed, and on the screen we can see congratulations, well done. If this condition is false, for example, user has entered a number 1000. Okay, so now 1000 less than 100, false. If this is false, this next statement is not executed. Then it jumps to the next statement. Okay, so there is no next statement. Finally, it goes to return 0 and your program will end here. Okay, so that means when the condition becomes false, no action is taken. When the condition is true, we want to take some action. What is that action? Just we want to greet him. Okay, so then it prints this one when the condition becomes true. If it is false, we are not taking any action. Simply we are going to end of the program. Okay, so this is simple if statement, and when we use this simple if statement, whenever we want to take action, only when the condition becomes true. Okay, but sometimes in real time we want to take an alternate action also. That means when the condition becomes true, we want to take one action, and the condition becomes false, we want to take another action. Okay, so in such case, use this if else statement. Use this if else statement. The second form of if statement is, yeah, this is what I am telling. If num less than 100, okay, so there should not be any semicolon. You put semicolon here, that is nothing but end of this statement. It's end of this statement. I'll show in the execution. Okay, so live program execution will do, and I'll show you what happens if we put semicolon. Okay, so there should not be any semicolon. That's why I am telling syntax every time. I am going with the syntax. If test condition, there is no semicolon. Okay, then begin the if and write the statement block and end the if statement here. Okay, right. Now alternate actions when we want to take, then we use the second form of if, that is if else statement. Okay, so how this is executed? If test condition is true, if the test condition is true, then it enters this and these true block statements are executed. From here directly control jumps to from here after executing this true block statements, directly control jumps to statement X here. See the line, I have drawn a red line here. It jumps to statement X here. Okay, from here it directly jumps to statement X. So what is happening here? It is skipping this false block statements when the condition is false as true. Okay, for example, assume the test condition is false. Okay, so in such case what happens, just see here, if the test condition is false, okay, directly what happens, the control comes to this else part. The control comes to this else part. That is what the meaning of else here. Okay, if test condition is true, it's a true block, otherwise. Okay, so that means if this is false, directly jumps to this else and execute this false block statements. And after executing false block, then immediately the next statement is automatically statement X, control comes to this statement X. Okay, so when the condition is false, what is happening? This true block statements are skipped here. These two block statements are skipped here. That means now you are in a position to skip some part of the program based on the condition. Okay, then you want to execute only this true block or false block. Now if you see the program for this if else statement, you can understand clearly. Okay, so test condition will be tested here. Okay, so condition will be tested here. Is it this true? Test condition true, then it comes this side. Then executes this true block statements, it executes, and from here it comes to this statement X, then goes with the next statement if there are any next statement, or goes to this way the control process. If the test condition is false, then it comes to this left hand side. So then executes this false block statements and then goes to the statement X. Statement X. Okay, so this is how your program takes either only one path, it takes either true block statements or false block statements are executed. Okay, so simple example, if we want to use this if statement, okay, so where we use wherever we want alternate actions to be taken in real time. Okay, so for example, you want to test whether the number is positive or negative. Okay, so just see the example here, how your program has to test whether the number is positive or negative. Okay, so now we want to write a program for this. Okay, so what I am doing is I am declaring a variable called as a num here. Okay, so when num is declared, I told what happens immediately, memory will be allocated for this num. Okay, so this is your num. Variable num here. Okay, so now you are giving a message to the user, then the next statement printf will be executed. Okay, so then on the screen enter a number. Okay, so assume that you have entered some number. Okay, say for example you have entered 5, you have entered. That 5 will be stored in a num. Now it goes to the next condition statement here. Okay, so if less than 0, if num less than 0, what is the value in num? Plus 5. Okay, so 5 less than 0, false. Since the condition is false, directly control comes to this else part. Okay, so then it executes this printf statement. The given number is positive. So on the screen you can see the given number is positive. Yes, sir. Is a positive number? Yes, it prints the given number is positive. Okay, so next time again we execute the same program. Okay, so this time enter a number, it prints. This time assume that the user has entered -5. User has entered -5. Okay, so now it checks the condition. If num less than 0, what is the value in num? -5. -5 less than 0? Yes, true. Okay, so then it executes. If this condition is true, immediately it executes the next statement following this if. Okay, so if this is true, do this. That is what we are telling. If this is false, go to this. That is what we are informing the compiler here. Okay, so since this the condition is true, -5 less than 0, true, then it goes to this printf statement and it prints the given number is negative. The given number is negative. Clear? Okay. So this is how you checks the given number is positive or negative. Okay. Now you may ask if we enter 0, whether 0 is positive. This problem with audio here. Is it okay now? Audio. Okay, so because of network quality, maybe uh, creating some disturbance in my audio. Okay, so not to worry. Right, these things already we discussed. Okay, so I want to actually uh, show the execution of this program in the last class. Right, so if else statement, that means when we have an alternate action to be taken. Condition true, take one action. Condition false, take another action. Okay. One alternate action whenever we want to take, then we use this if else statement. Okay. Next form of if else statement. Right. This already we discussed if else. Okay. So next is statement. So in if else, what we did, two different codes will execute based on the test condition. Condition true, true block, condition false. Okay, but sometimes we want to make a choice from more than two possibilities. Three, four, five possibilities. Different possibilities are there, and we want to test for every possibilities. Okay, so that means when more than two conditions need to be tested. Okay, so in such case, we use this nested if else statement. We use this nested if else statement. When there are only two possibilities, we use if else statement. More than two possibilities, okay, we use this nested if else statements. Now, the nested if else statement allows us to check multiple conditions. Okay, so whenever we want to check multiple test conditions and I execute different piece of codes. We use this nested if else statements. Okay, the general form of nested if else statement. If we look into the general form of a nested if else statement, or in other way we call it as syntax of a if nested if else statement. Okay, so see here, if test condition 1, okay, if condition 1 is true, then it enters this. If test condition 1 true, then it enters the true block here. Okay, so inside the true block, what we are doing again, we are testing another condition. If test condition true, okay, now see here, in one if we are writing another, is called nesting of if else statement. Okay, so you can even test another condition immediately. You can test second condition, test condition 2, it checks if this is true, then statement 1 is executed. If this is false, statement 2 is executed. Okay, so test condition is true, statement 1 is executed. If test condition 2 is false, then it comes inside else here. Okay, statement 2 is executed, and directly from here control jumps to statement X. Here control directly jumps to statement X. In the flowchart, I will show this. Okay. Now, for example, in the first case, test condition 1 is false. If test condition 1 is false, then now see here is another else open part. Okay. From this open brace to closing brace, this is if block, and from else to this brace, it is else part, we call it as. Okay. So if test condition 1 is false, then directly it comes to this outer statement 3 is executed and directly comes to statement X. Okay. Now in the form of flowchart, if you look into, just see here, first test condition 1 is tested. Okay. So if this is true, then it goes immediately, it goes to second test condition. Okay. So test condition 2 is tested. If this is true, then statement 1 is executed. Okay. So after executing statement 1, directly statement X, then goes to the next statement. Following that statement X tarvata inka evana unte, then those statements will be executed. Okay, now see this syntax, and now see here, just see the syntax. Condition 1 is true, immediately it is entering this if statement block, and inside this we have test condition 2. That is what we have shown here. Test condition 1 is true, then immediately entering the if block, and inside the block another test condition. Okay, so if that is true, then statement 1 is executed, and this is immediately this from this directly jumps to statement X. That means skipping statement 2 and 3. For example, test condition 2 is a false, jumps to statement 2. Okay, so inside that we have else, then it goes to that else, and statement 2 is executed. From here directly it goes to statement X. Okay, now in the first case, test condition 1 is false. If condition 1 is true, it comes to this right side part, and how it executes another test condition we have shown here. In the first instance, for example, then it comes to this left hand side. What happens? There is another else statement in that. So directly it goes to that else part, and statement 3 is executed, and directly it goes to statement X. Okay, so this is how more than two possibilities whenever we want to test, we use this statement. Clear? Okay, so example program, if we look into, then now a simple example program, if you want to test this if nested if else statement. Okay, so greatest of three numbers we want to test. Before that, now if else statement we demonstrate here, and for this we given an example program whether the number is positive or a negative. Okay, so now you try and we write another program using this if else statement. Okay, so what is that example program? Greatest of two numbers program will write it there. Okay, so program, take down this program to find greatest of two numbers. Okay, so along with me you please write in your notes, just check whether you can do this comfortably or not. Okay, so what is the next line to be written? Include the header file. So hash include stdio.h. Greatest of two numbers. Okay, if you are asked to find greatest of two numbers, you write. Okay, so please write along with me in the voice is talking. Okay now. Voice, is it okay? Audio clarity? Okay then. Right. So we write the program. Okay, so just try yourself. Okay, and whether you can write this program yourself or not. Okay, greatest of two numbers. If you are asked whether you can write this program or not. Okay, so include the file, then write the main function. Okay, so then begin the main. Now, so this skeleton code, I think everybody can write this skeleton. This is called skeleton. Okay, so any C program contains this skeleton code. Okay, so now based on the program, you need to build this body of a main. Okay, now what is the task to be? Greatest of two numbers. Given two numbers, you need to find, or your program need to find which is the greatest number. Okay. To find greatest of two numbers. Okay, so what we need to do, first thing inside the main is declaration of variables. This should immediately come into your mind. Okay, so that means I need to store two numbers first. Okay, so to store two numbers, I need to declare two variables. This should come into your mind. Okay, so now I declare two variables in x comma y. X comma y, two variables I declared. Okay, So now I have to read these numbers through the keyboard. Okay, so the next step is reading from the keyboard. Okay, so that means I have to give a message to the user, a prompt message. This is called prompt message. Okay? So how can you give a message, prompt message, using printf statement? So printf statement, give the message, enter two numbers. Enter two numbers. End this with semicolon. Okay. So user enters two numbers. I have to read the numbers entered through keyboard. So through keyboard is entering. That means I have to use a scanf function. Use a scanf function. So using scanf function, now I can read the two numbers. Okay. So within double colon, now write the format specifiers, %d, comma, then store in the two variables, first number in address of x, comma, second number in address of this is how you should proceed. Okay, so that means now the two numbers are with you. Now the two numbers are with you, x and y. You have stored those two numbers in the variables x and y. Now you have to decide which one is greater. Which is greater. Okay, so how do you find? When you compare the two numbers, then you can find whether x is greater or y is greater. So if you want to compare or test some condition, we use if statement. Okay, so that should come into your mind. If, then within the parenthesis write the condition. If x greater than y, if x greater than y. Okay. Now I'll tell different ways of writing this program. Okay, so best way I'll choose at the end. Now see here. Okay, if x greater than y, that means if this condition is true, what action you want to take? You write here. Okay, open the brace and close the brace. Inside this is called body of if statement. Okay, so if block, we call this is if block. Okay, if x greater than y, what does it mean? We know that x is greater, so that you print on the screen. Okay, so printf here x is a greater, x is a greater. Okay, so end with the new line, end this with a semicolon. Okay, right. Otherwise, otherwise means in program we use the keyword called as a else. Okay, this is false, x greater than y. If this is false, that means we know that y is greater. So you print that message, say printf y is greater. Y is greater. This is how you should build the program. Y is greater. Okay, so then finally say return 0. Then end your main program. Okay, so this is end of your main program. Okay, so then save your program. I'm saving the program. So if else, no, or greatest of two numbers. This is something you can write here. If else dot c. Now this is your if else program to find the greatest of two numbers. Okay. So how many of you did this? Just see. If you go on listening, get ch. See here, get ch is used in a Windows environment. Okay, in Windows environment, that means Turbo C. If you use, you can use this get ch. But in Linux environment, once your process starts from February 1st onwards, Okay, so in our college lab, we will be using Linux operating system. Okay, so in Linux compiler operating system compiler, getch is not used. Okay, that means that is not available in those compilers. It gives error. Okay, getch is only to just make the output screen visible to the user. Okay, so if you don't use ch, you can also use Alt F5 screen. You will get output screen. You can see screen Alt F5 function key F5 screen. If you press same time Alt F5, then you will get the previous output screen. Okay, so to make that output stop until you enter some key, we use this get ch. Okay, so not to worry about this. We are following Linux environment, so that's why we don't use get ch in programs. Okay, right? Okay. Now, so are you able to generate this? When you listen to these else if, ladder, nested if else, okay, so it looks good. You may think that okay, we can write, okay, but when the time comes to implement when you want to write your own program, then you feel the difficulty. Okay, so that's why you need to observe where I am using semicolon, where I am not using semicolon, how I am written inside the if and else part. Okay, so these things you should observe very carefully. Okay, so it makes uh, you easily if you observe these things. Okay, right. So let me explain some of the important points in this program. Okay, so now see here what we are doing. We declare two variables here. You can use x less than y, also you can use condition. It is up to you how you use the condition. Okay, if x less than y, okay, then you can write here y is greater, else x is greater. Okay, right. So condition, writing the condition is up to the your program should print the correct output. Okay, so law different. That's what different students write solve the problem in different ways. Okay, but finally the solution should be the same. It should give the correct output. So not to worry, compulsory x greater than y. We have to write no. You can use x less than y also. Based on that, if the condition is true, you need to decide which one is greater. I have to print inside this what statement to write inside this printf statement. You need to decide and you should write correct. Okay, all right. Now, so just let me explain some of the important things. Now, two values we entered, say for example, 10 and 20 I stored in x and y. Now it comes to this if statement. Okay, so it checks the condition like this. If 10 greater than y, it checks first. Okay, so 10 greater than y, no, false. So that it comes to this else statement and it prints y is greater. It prints y is greater. Okay, right. For example, 20 and 10 I entered. Next time, 20 and 10 I entered. Okay, now see here. So 20 greater than 10. Yes, then it prints x is greater. It prints x is greater. Okay, so that means when this is true, then it immediately follows the next statement. When the condition is false, it directly jumps to this else statement. Please remember. So this part will be skipped here. So when this condition is false, directly in between this if and else, whatever code you write, it skips and directly jumps to this else part and it executes this else statement here. Okay, so just let me show the output here. Afterwards, I'll tell you important points here. Okay, so let me build the program. 0 errors. Okay, so in my program 0 errors is showing. Okay, so then let me run the program. Now it is asking enter two numbers. Enter two numbers. Okay, so first time I entered 10, 20. 10, 20 I entered. Okay, now see y is greater. Suddenly this y is greater. Where from this y? Okay, so it is not a appropriate way of printing the output. I told output should be meaningful. Output should be meaningful. Okay, that's why we should change it. 20 is greater. It should print 20 is greater. Instead of y is greater, it should print 20 is greater. Okay, or if you run the program again, now just see here. If I run the program, enter two numbers. Okay, so 200 and 50 I entered, for example. Now see is greater. అసలు x అనేది ఇక్కడ ఉందా? There is no x in input. Inside the program, you declare the variable names. But when this is executed, the user should convince it with your output. Okay, so that's why it should print 200 is greater. Okay, then he understand. Okay, among these two, 200 is greater. This is the program for this. Okay, so how can I print that way? How can I print that way? Okay, so this is, you should make changes in the program. Okay, so instead of just printing x is greater, y is greater, we should put the number here. And now see the logic of printing. Whenever we want to print the number from the variable, you have to use format specifier there. Please remember. Okay, so inside the printf statement, in the place where you want to print exactly, you want to print the number inside the message, there you use the format specifier. Okay, so instead of x is greater, now you say percentage d is greater. Percentage d is greater. And if you are using format specifier, immediately you should tell the compiler from the number should be taken for this format specifier. Okay, so you put a comma and give the variable name here. Okay, so now from x you take the value and print in this format specifier place. That is what we are informing. Similarly, here also, instead of saying y is greater, you say percentage d is greater, comma, same name I have to use here, y. Now it is nothing but x is greater, y is greater, but actual number we are printing, x number we are printing here, and y value we are printing here. Whatever value present in these two variables we are printing. Your output looks good. Okay, so just see here. Now if I run the program, now enter two numbers. Okay, so 200. Okay, so comma, say for example 300 I entered. Okay, see 300 is greater. Okay, so then okay, 200, 300, 300 is greater. This is people understands in that way. Okay, so this is how we should write the program to find greatest of two numbers. Okay, another important point from this program I'll tell you. Okay. Now whenever the condition is true, if there is only single statement to be executed after the if or else, okay, no need of writing these braces. Please remember, if you write these braces every time, okay, so it creates some confusion. When you have more than one statement to be executed, then you can write as a block. This open brace and closing brace we use only when we have a block of statements to be executed. To be executed, then no need of writing this. Okay, so you can write like this. Compiler understands which is if statement and which is else statement. Printf. This way you write, it looks good. Okay, so compiler understands if this condition is true, now this is the statement to be executed. If this condition is false, then it goes to else and this is the statement to be executed. Understands this. Okay, so this is best way of writing a program. People appreciates if you follow these kind of program styles. Okay, statement we need to execute, then we write a open brace and closing brace here. Okay, that means if the condition is true, you want to execute 10 printf statements, then you include them as a block. In such case, we use the block. Okay, right? Okay then.